to do it today. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Hello, good people. I think I finally figured it out. We have gone live. I'm looking for my water. Oh, one other thing I didn't do. I want to make sure we do this here. Oh, look at that. Okay. We are officially live and we have 30 minutes to go through at least as many questions as we can get through, as well as our what would you do that comes from our school community. So if you are in our school community, go ahead and give me some notes here. Give me some chat saying, hi, I'm from the school community, because your questions trump everybody else's, number one. And number two, if you have not joined my school community yet, go ahead and I'm going to put in the chat how you would come to my school community. Hey, good to see you. If you are not a part of my school community, click the link and join. I know people are like, Tony, you got to pay. It's like a few dollars. Like, I think it's even cheaper than like going to like a Starbucks. But to get all the knowledge I have to share with you guys, it's definitely worth it because we are moving and grooving in the community. And I'm excited that you are here, first here, and then joining the school community so that we can be about this business. We can be about getting our transitional housing um, programs together in our communities and start making an impact. You've been talking about this for I don't know how long. It's time to do it now. So let's go ahead and do it. So, oh my goodness, I'm so glad to see this is your first time. I love seeing you guys, and definitely questions that you've got, feel free to chime in here. I am going to jump right in with the questions we've already got. If you are in the school community, let me know because I am on live on both sides. I'm here on school and I'm here on YouTube. So we're going to jump right in with our questions because I got several of them coming in, and I want to make sure that I am answering your questions first and foremost. So the first question that I got from one of our students was related to grants. And I actually just talked about this in one of my episodes, talking specifically about the COC. Her question was, how do I make my program more grant friendly? So that's a two-part question to me, because those of you who know, I talk solely from a for-profit standpoint. I've got a nonprofit and I'm a for-profit. Typically, grants are for people who have nonprofits. So we're going to talk on that side, but I'm going to shift you in your thoughts just to make sure you understand how to really get yourself prepared to receive some of that grant money. You don't have to be a nonprofit to get it. And I'll talk about how you can do that in this conversation. So, first thing you want to do when you're thinking about if you're a nonprofit and you're wanting to make sure you are grant friendly, you have to make sure that your data, you got all of your data, you got the right data that you're tracking. Because at the end of the day, people aren't giving money just to give money away. They want to make sure that you're meeting whatever metrics that they've identified that you need to show that you can create. Now, I'm telling you, being a new person in this game, your competition for grants is real heavy. So I'm just going to say, those of you who are asking that question, because I know who asked this one, if somebody does is brand spanking new, they do have a nonprofit, and the likelihood, not saying it can't happen, but the likelihood of that individual getting a grant and being grant worthy, you have to have really some success showing what outcomes you're creating for people. So I would just tell you, brand spanking new, go ahead and make sure that you know what data you're going to be measuring and how you're going to be tracking that, because that is critical to you being able to make yourself grant worthy. Also, they love to see when you are partnering. They don't want to see you competing with each other, which most of these grants are competitive. Like I hear them saying all the time, we don't want to make it competitive. We want you to collaborate. But 9 times out of 10, people are competing against each other and they don't talk a lot about collaboration. I want you to be different. I want you to be the person that's going to collaborate with other people and find ways in which you can complement what it is that they do. Now, I'm just going to say, as you are showing yourself to be collaborative and work with other people, I would just encourage you to fill a gap where an area that they're having issues with doing. you fill that gap. If you have that type of relationship with an agency or with somebody, then you can easily create that and have that partnership where you're not doing the exact same work, because yeah, you're going to be bumping heads all the time. So making sure that whatever it is that you're creating has that collaborative effort, that is critical to you being successful. And I'm just going to say, especially if you're wanting to get a grant, knowing the expectations related to like the paperwork they require, you need to make sure that you are fully transparent in your financials, making sure you know whatever system you're using. Like I know many people like to just pen and paper and work it like that, which you can do. But if you want to really grow something big and nice, you need a reliable accounting system that's going to allow you to be able to create the type of reports that you need to create that show that it lines up with your mission. So having clear budgets and clear breakdowns of all the information, having it readily available and transparent related to every dollar. And I stress that because I can tell you that'll be the one thing that will make you lose a grant. I've talked about that before too. So making sure you just have the things in place to help you get the results that you want. And then making sure, of course, that if whoever is giving the money, you want to make sure you're lining up with their priorities. And if you already have an idea of a particular grant that you're looking to apply for as a person who is a nonprofit, know what their expectations are. Once you know what their priorities are and you create yourself around that, that is a beautiful thing. Now, let me quickly talk about that person who doesn't have a nonprofit, because you can still be a for profit and still participate in a grant. And the way that looks is through partnership. So let's say that you are brand spanking new, just got your transitional housing program together, you've got some deliverables, everything set up, and you find a perfect partner. And let's say that partner is the one who has the grant. Now you can create yourself around their deliverables, what it is that they do, and building relationships in that space is so important. I think I spend a majority of my time with my VIP talking about that specific thing. When you learn how to cultivate good relationships with people, you can go far. And that's where I spend a lot of time working with my VIP students to make sure that they have what's necessary to help them get that relationship and go beyond that. And I think that's the one thing that makes me a little unique, because I do have experience working with people in the space. So helping you cultivate that relationship so you can be grant worthy is critical to a lot of your success. Because even though grants is not the foundation of your funding, it's actually the icing on the cake and sometimes the sprinkles. So that's okay. You're not depending on it. All of your funding comes through other ways. But if we can help you get a grant, absolutely, or to participate, let me rephrase, to participate in a grant, then I want to help you be able to do that. So, powerful question. And I'm glad that that question was asked. Another question that came was related to evictions. Basically, how do you evict a resident legally and ethically? Now, that's a powerful combination, legally and ethically, because I'm just going to say, and I'm going to use this loosely, when you're working with a program, and let's say that you're working with a program that requires shared rooms, like you literally have individuals sharing a room versus having their own private space that is theirs. When you're structured that way, I'm just going to say you minimize that landlord tenancy that you would have if you were just having private rooms or they had their own place. There's not as much of that. They're in a program. The program dictates their compliance. So I spend a lot of time talking about that too, because there are ways that you can do that. People ask me all the time, well, Tony, how many evictions have you had? And I can honestly tell you, well, until just recently, we had one that was out of my control, because it was long story to talk about. But prior to that, I could count literally on this hand, and it might have been one or two. I want to say zero because we literally don't have evictions. The way that we have created our programming makes it very minimal. And I like to use it as the last resort because at the end of the day, imagine what you're doing to a person when you evict them. What hits their record? Who else will rent to them? And our goal is not to hurt people. We're not wanting to help people in our programs and then evict them to hurt them when they aren't complying or doing what they need to do. At the end of the day, I will just simply say that is a last resort. But when you do it, you still have to follow whatever your state landlord tenant laws are. I'm just going to say, if, as the last resort, I'm just going to tell you many times they leave on their own because they don't want to have that on their record. And I wouldn't use that as leverage against them. Do what you can to have them peacefully leave. I will say that. But each state has their own policy related to evictions, their own laws related to it. And I want to encourage you to be a follower of the law first. But you want to also have some compassion in that. That's why getting them to a position where you're actually evicting them, you don't have to be that hardball, like hard nosed person with them. You really can help them move on without hurting them even further and preventing them from getting housing if they can find housing. Just find a way to be peaceful about it. And I would say go that route before really getting to the point where you have to evict somebody. And then I would just make sure that in your documentation that they fully understand what violations look like. We regularly talk about that. So there's no questions about what it is that we expect them to do, how we want them to do it, and in compassion as well. I mean, I'm not trying to force anything down their throat, but my goal is to be able to help them understand what the goals are and the clear expectations are of your program when they don't pay or when there's violence. We actually have a zero tolerance related to violence and drug usage and overnight stays. So there's specific things that we know without a shadow of a doubt are reasons why people are no longer within our program. So as long as you set those clear expectations where they understand and multiple ways, you communicate that in multiple ways. I would just want to make sure you're doing that. And then be sure that when you do find that they're in violation, that there's some type of documentation, because if you didn't document it, it don't exist. And making sure your documentation is clear will help you legally be able to do what's necessary when it's time to do it. Now clearly we don't want to do that, but our goal is to make sure that we at least have documented everything as well, moving us forward. And then I would just make sure, there are ways that you can help them find additional housing. I've done that before as well. But depending on which population you're working with, they, sometimes will find their own way out. And that's our goal, is if it's not a good fit, maybe it's another fit for you to be elsewhere. And we like to do that. Now, I think I do see a question in the room, and it's, does your program show you how to house veterans? So I don't dedicate to a specific niche, but I have expertise in all of it because I've worked with people. I started out actually with veterans when we first started down this route. They have very different requirements that they are looking for, as well as being able to work with people coming, wanting to stay in recovery, people coming out of incarceration. We do it all. But when you say the program that I create allows for you to be able to work with whichever niche you want to work with. I think the best part of the training that I offer, because most people will come in and just say, Tony, I just want to buy your course. And that's fine. But I think the value that I bring is in the VIP, because you get me. And every situation is unique. And I don't like to like cut and paste, or what is it, cookie cut a program. I don't cookie cut anything because everybody's situation is different. You're in a different state. I can tell you certain things to look for, but you're going to get what you get in just simply getting a course, which is wonderful. The course is amazing, but I think the best value is having someone one on one work with you in a space for a period of time as you work out those niches. And I appreciate you asking that question because it sounds like veterans is where you want to go. I'll just share with you when you're dealing with veterans, and there's a big push for veterans right now in every community. I do know specifically, even in St. Louis, they're doing a big push, and there's a whole lot of providers in that space. So I'm always curious as to why people are gravitating, why you specifically want to gravitate to veterans. Is that really where your why sits? Because your why is what's going to dictate, not necessarily a particular population. And your why will dictate who that population is. So I would love to talk with you. I don't know if I've sat with you before, Sabrina. If I haven't, this is your first time, please book some time with me so you and I can have a conversation. I'd love to be able to just find out your why. And you can book some time with me at bookwithtony.com. And then we'll get on my calendar and we'll spend about 15 minutes together. Or you can join my school community at tonyschool.com. That way you can send me chats whenever you want to. And that's TONISKOOL.com. And you can be a part of that. All right, so let's go ahead and go to, oh, wow, gosh, quarter till. I want to get through a few more questions. So, another question someone asked was, how do I choose a good program manager? So, I'm just going to say, you're going to be the best manager, because you're starting off, you're doing the program. So, I'm just going to tell you, if you're thinking of starting this off and not being the program manager at first, let me encourage you to do that, because you will know what it takes to be a good manager because you're going to be it first. Now, once you identified specific things that you need done, then you can start looking at specific things that individuals must have in them to be able to be a good manager. Because first and foremost, you already know someone's got to have some good, strong leadership skills to be the person who does that. Someone who also has the compassion that you have for whatever it is that you're building. Remember, this is yours. You built this. You wanted to build this. So you need to make sure the person who's going to run it for you has that same type of energy that you have. Literally, if you could replicate yourself to the point where someone can be like you, that's what you want. You want a person who truly has an understanding of people, who has a heart for people and human beings. And if they have experience in that space, I don't always look at degrees. I'm just going to let you know. I've I'm just going to tell y'all. I took an entire shelter. I ran two homeless shelters with individuals with 0 degrees. And you're wondering, how did you do that, Tony? Because of this right here. This right here. When you have a heart and you have a heart to help people, that thing lives and breathes in you. And I was able to identify skills that I was looking for, and I was able to train and try. I trained my entire team as if they were social workers. We had the best performing staff imaginable and we didn't come from a social services background. I don't have a social services background. I have a heart. So we were able to truly teach trauma informed care. We taught case management. We taught all the things necessary for a shelter to thrive, and we thrive. And to this day, like I still see some of them now. Well, I haven't had the shelter for a while, and I still see them working in that space, and they are living their best life. And that's what this is all about. So whoever you're looking for to be a part of your team, not just to be your manager, but to work with you, they have to come in for the right reasons and be committed to your mission. And if you can get people who are on board with where you are, the things that they will do for you because of your heart and because of their heart will be worth millions to you. So I would just encourage you to do that as you move forward, identifying people who are going to work with you. So, oh my goodness, wonderful. I see that you're interested in halfway house, sober living houses, book time once before, and chickened out because I feel I wasn't ready, but you're ready now. Well, come on to me. I want you to book some time so that we can talk about how you can do that. Because guess what? I'm telling you right now, you're meant to do that. There's a reason why you want to do that. There's a reason why it's still there. So don't let the enemy chicken you out of anything that God has for you. It is almost an expectation. You need to have a sense of urgency to move forward on that right now. And there's a reason why it's pulling on you now. So I will look forward to talking with you one on one. Also, join our school community so we can lift each other up in this space. Because I'm not going to tell you it's easy, because it's not easy. But anything worth doing that He tells you to do that's aligned with your purpose isn't easy, but He makes it easy. So I'm just going to encourage you to continue to thrive in that space where God wants to take you. And I look forward to talking with you about how we can make that happen for you. Awesome. Now, as we look at the next question, I've got two more questions and then we got the what would you do? So, okay, I don't know how to respond. How do I respond to negative online reviews? Okay. So I really don't. So, okay, how do I say this? Okay. I can say I haven't had any really negative online reviews, but if people talk negatively about me, yeah, they talked about Jesus. So, I honestly will tell you, when you're in this space and you're doing a work, you're doing kingdom work, you have to have a tough backbone, number one. And you have to have resilience, and you have to know who's guiding you, because you're gonna get opposition, but that's okay. So it's okay if people talk badly about you. It's okay if people want to say something negative. I would just encourage you to always stay professional, always stay humble, always be accountable. Because if there's something that you need to correct, and I'll be the first, it's hard sometimes to be, yeah, you're right, being accountable. But I would always take a position of being professional and calm, and then seeing if there's any truth to whatever it is that you're hearing. If there's something that someone has concerning, do your best to fix it. You're not perfect. Nobody is perfect. But I would do whatever you can before it can go to an online platform. Like, if you know someone's upset with you, do what you can to resolve that. Now, I'm not going to tell you that your answer is always going to be, roses and rainbows. Sometimes you have to have a stance on what you stand by. So not everyone's going to be happy with you, but that's okay. As long as you do the right thing, you feel that it's fair, then you move forward with that, and God bless them. That's how I have to say it. And I would just avoid getting to a position where you're defensive. You don't have to defend anything. As long as you make sure you're doing things the right way, you honor what they have to say and hear them out and listen to whatever constructive feedback they want to give, and if there is a legitimate concern, then say something about it. And I would address it if there are legitimate. Let's say somebody did put something out on you online and they're talking about you and it was a legitimate concern, then address it. And I can just say people will appreciate it when you admit that you may have messed up, or you just may have not have done something proper, and that's okay. And will you forgive me and keep it moving? I would say, honestly, that's the position I would take if somebody said something negative about me, and they say negative stuff all the time. And well, not all the time. I don't want to imply that I got a whole lot of stuff, but people are going to talk all the time about you. So you can just be the best version of yourself and give your heart, and God bless them. That's how I would move. How do I handle late rent from residents? So, I'm gonna give you a short answer because I want to get to the what would you do. In a nutshell, we have clear policies related to late payments. Like, and I don't even use the word. So we have late pays. We collect dues from individuals when they are paying. So when those dues are late, we they already know what the expectation is. And we are excessive in our late fees. So that's why we don't want to have a late fee at all. It's $10 every day that it's late. $10 every day that it's late. So if dues are due on the first, come the second, we automatically take a position. If we don't say it, well, we're assuming that you no longer really want to be a part of the program. We really hope that we can turn this around. But our goal is to get people who do what's expected. And the dues are expected on time because there's expectations to make sure that everything moves smoothly in the program. They want to make sure there's lights on. They want to make sure that there's Wi-Fi, if you're providing Wi-Fi. They want to make sure all of the luxuries that is provided is consistent. So you're relying on those dues to make sure that it happens. And that's why I would encourage you making sure that you have systems in place to get those dues immediately. Because you don't want to leave it in their hands to control. We have a system that they can do automatically where it's done automatically, especially if they've got money coming in. We make sure that those things happen like that. So there's no issue. And if there is an issue, we let them know, hey, they couldn't pay. They're supposed to come to us and say, hey, this is going on. I need to make arrangements. They're going to put something down in good faith. If it's not on the first and you're going to pay on the seventh, then they're putting 7 days worth of dues down to carry them until that day happens. We've been doing that consistently. And is it perfect? No, but it works like this. It's pretty good. And they respond. So we don't have a lot of issues. And when it's late, they pay the late fees. So if it's on the 15th, that's an additional 150 they'll be paying, in addition to whatever, because they would have put some money up front to cover those 15 days. Those are the type of things that we do. And we want to address things quickly. If you're not addressing those dues quickly and you let it go a whole month, now you've allowed for them to accumulate a $300 late fee on top of what is owed in dues. That would hurt somebody and you really put them in a terrible position. So make sure you address it quickly so that you can move forward with what it is that you're creating. And I would make sure clearly all agreements that you got, you have them in writing and you've had them agree. So if they made a commitment, hey, I'll pay it on the 7th, I usually send a message saying, per our conversation, you indicated that you weren't able to pay until this date. You've agreed to put this money's, this amount down for your dues. Are you still in agreement with that? They say yes. Now they've agreed to what the pay arrangement is, and you're looking for them to honor what they say they're going to do because they're putting that money down and then they're paying what's owed on the date that they said they were going to do it. When you are consistent in how you communicate with the people in your program, they'll respect you because that's what you want to do is teach them responsibility. And one of the responsibilities to be a part of this program is to make sure that dues are there and explain why that's important because everybody wants to make sure that they have Wi-Fi, right? They want to make sure that the lights work when they turn them on, right? So those are the type of things we're constantly reinforcing in our messaging. So I got 3 minutes to go through the what would you do. So I'm gonna find it here real quick for those of you who did not get a chance. And I was shocked, you guys. Y'all didn't respond as much to this one. Y'all must not have liked this. What would you do? But in this, what would you do? It says you got a staff member in your transitional home who's very caring, but maybe a little too caring. They've started giving residents rides to appointments, buying small personal items out of pocket, and even texting with them after hours. At first, it feels like they're just going the extra mile, but now you're noticing residents are starting to expect this special treatment and even complain when other staff won't do the same. It's creating tension among staff and blurring professional boundaries. As the operator, how would you handle this situation? Do you set a hard line, stop the extra support immediately? Do you create a new policy so it's consistent across all staff? Or do you let the staff continue since it's helping the residents? What would you do? Now, I'm going to just tell you. So, Quatez said, oh no, I'm law enforcement. It's called fraternizing. We're not allowed to do it, so we lose our jobs and we could be charged on a permanent record to where we couldn't get another job in that field. And then Kashmira said, I would first create a zero tolerance handbook rule book for all staff and residents. So, I only had two people respond. So good feedback, but let me bring us back because remember how this started. It said that they were too caring and they start doing certain things and doing these special things. Now, I know who we are. We are compassionate investors, right? We're compassionate people. But I need you to hear me very well. Just because that's who we are does not mean that, you can't, because you're going to create chaos amongst everybody else. And it's important that you allow your compassionate heart to stay where it is not enabling people, but where it is helping move people forward. So when you are doing that, you're actually creating more problems when you're creating those blurred lines. And people are going to not respect you. And they're not going to know when you're being too much of a friend and not a staff member. And at the end of the day, this is staff and it is fraternizing. So I want you to make sure that even though your heart is big, you do not get to that point because you're going to do more harm than good. And you need to make sure that they understand what's going on. Now, so you need to then work with that staff member privately, having a conversation and letting them know, hey, and I would start with a meeting and understanding and letting them know, I know you have a desire to want to help people. I see your heart. I see who you are. But this is why you can't do this, because you're going to create a ripple effect that's going to impact the entire staff. And pointing out those specific things that they were doing, how it could cause a problem, you need to start there. So once you lead with that understanding first with that staff member, so they understand that they've crossed the lines and that you don't want them crossing that line. So making sure you revisit their role and what it is that they do and create those boundaries. You can do that. And that's your job as the person who manages this program, is making sure they understand the professional boundaries. We don't, and I would even say, even like taking people out in your personal vehicles. If you're not doing, you need to think, if I'm not doing this for everybody, I can't do it for one person. Because now the expectation is you have to do it for everybody, not just that one person that you like more than John. You have to do it for everybody. And that's why you wouldn't want to do that, because you don't want to do it for everybody. So as long as you set those boundaries and let them know what is too far, and then you're going to have to then reset that. You have to reset that, either making sure if it's not addressed in your handbook, you make sure that it's addressed clearly there so they understand what the expectation is. I would create some training around that so they understand, just like an example of what would you do. I would do what would you do so they understand these specific guidelines. And then making sure the residents know, they would understand that they know that these are the things that aren't allowed. And I would encourage, instead of doing those things, give them an alternative. So instead of giving people personal rides, you can provide transportation service. Like they have bus passes you can give out to people. So now you're not doing personal rides, you're letting them have bus passes. Everybody gets a locked number that they would get. You have to just make sure that works for everybody. Or instead of buying stuff out of pocket, you have like an emergency fund for things, and they probably could get one of those a year or something like that. But you can create systems that work, that still help protect what you're creating versus destroying it. Those are some alternatives that you can do instead of doing that and crossing those boundaries. So, wow, we got through all of that. I feel pretty excited about what we covered tonight. I'm looking forward to doing this every week. If you are not in my school community, go ahead and join. I would love to have all of you come and be a part of us there, as well as those of you in my school community watching me here. I enjoyed having you here. The next time, though, I would love to have us on camera. I don't even know if it's possible for you to be on camera with me here, but I am recording today. So I look forward to doing this again next week. Mark your calendars so that you're here same time, same schedule next week, and do this with me every week, because we're going to be covering your questions live and the ones that you're submitting to me beforehand. So I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Have a good rest of the evening. Bye bye.